Hello and welcome to Handwork. I want to show you how to use the 4-fold pattern that I have given you. First, you're going to want to cut the pattern out. I'm showing you the biggest or the largest pattern piece, but if you cut along the dotted lines for the shirt or whatever else you're going to be using, then that is where you're going to cut along that pattern. So just go ahead and cut that out. And then you're going to cut along here. And then I'm going to show you the folding points. So like I said, this is a 4-fold pattern, which means you are folding your fabric into 4 quadrants. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you'll fold it once and then twice. So even though I have folded it twice, it creates 4 quadrants. We have a lot of things sticking to fabric today. Now you can take your pattern and you can see that the fold, you will put the fold when I open this up. Okay, you're going to put the center of the fold along the one line, and then the top fold has to be where the shoulder is. So that means you're paying attention, because if you open up your fabric and the fold, you can tell that the fold is at the top because you can see it. So if you can open your fabric and count 1, 2, 3, 4, that needs to be at the bottom. That is the open part. And the fold is at the top. So that means now you can trace your pattern. You can use, I like to use just a graphite pencil, but so you can see it, I'm using a fabric marker. And if you notice, I'm not tracing along the fabric line or along the pattern line, and that is because that is going to be what is called a seam allowance. So you'll trace where on your fabric you trace next to your fabric or next to your pattern, and then you give yourself, I say pinky's length, the distance from your pinky to the pattern. And I can fix that when I check it. And it has to be far enough away. And some of you might know what a seam allowance is. You're going to sew along the line that is next to your pattern. And you need this distance. You need that distance away so that you can create a seam. You cannot sew right up against the edge. So you need 2 lines here. So when I remove that, you see the sewing line and then your cutting line. So the cutting line is furthest away. Okay, so cut, cut, cut. Carefully. Now, notice that my scissors are never fully shutting, and I'm creating a very smooth line. I don't have jagged cutting lines because I'm constantly moving my scissors along where my fabric is. Now I'm going to I need to figure out how big of a neckline I want. So I'm going to start with the smaller neckline first. And if I need to move it, open it up later, then that's fine. But it's better to cut smaller and then move to bigger. So now when I open up my pattern, I have a pattern for a shirt or a dress. And that is the very first garment we are going to make. I am so glad that you can join me today. And so the next step is to sew up the seam allowance. So you're going to sew from the bottom here and the bottom of the arm, and you're going to leave this open, and you're going to sew around the arm to sew the seam allowance in. So that is the very next step. I'm going to put the seam allowance on the other side of the garment. And as you can see, I'm just going to open this up. You can see that top fold there. So you don't need to sew the top because that's already in this folded pattern. And so you're just sewing along the sides and under the arm. And I will meet you in the next video to show you how to do that sewing.